Well, the ministry today brings us to this ancient church, and I wonder if you can guess what this church is. I think some of the bomb ruins which you can see should give you a clue, and it is of course Coventry Cathedral. The mighty Luftwaffe tried to obliterate this in November of the early 1940s and succeeding in bombing most of the church, and you can see from the debris here at the top that most of it withstood the might of the Luftwaffe. Built in the 13th century, it certainly says something for the stonemasons who worked on it and the men who mixed the mortar and cement for these mighty walls here, and just look how thick they are and how they withstood the bombs that were dropped. The rebuilding of the cathedral in the, I believe, the early 1960s was designed by the architect Sir Basil Spence, and I remember at the time somebody commenting, I think, one of the newspapers, that Basil Spence hadn't been noted as a prominent Christian to carry out this commission, which obviously the diocese gave him here. And you can see for a start that the whole thing is completely opposite from the traditional design of the old cathedral to the angel at the top there. Can you see that angel up there? Very controversial. I remember when that came in, I seem to remember a helicopter coming in and putting it there. It rather looks like the angel Moroni, doesn't it, over the Mormon temple. But that was very controversial at the time. And as always, from any catastrophe, you can see the phoenix there arising from the ashes. Now, of course, Coventry Cathedral, where many young people will go there, probably learn a lot of secular items. But coming over now, one more of Basil Spence's commissions here. Maybe that's Michael the Archangel, I'm not sure. Not sure what the spear represents, maybe the tribe of Israel, but a bound Satan there, and you can see he's bound there with Michael having all superiority over him. The stone tells us here, to the glory of God. This foundation stone was laid by Queen Elizabeth II on the 23rd day of March 1956. And you see a Bible reference here. Other foundation can no man lay than that which is laid, which is Jesus Christ. Well, interesting etchings on this beautifully designed glass. I'm just trying to identify some of them, and I can see some Catholic influence on the second level as I go along. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It looks like Mary, Queen of Heaven, and above her you see assorted demons by the looks of it, or fallen angels causing discord, and above it the tradition of the church, the bishop's crozier, and above it more demons. Or are they angels? No, I think they're angels blowing the celestial trumpets that the Lord is coming. Beautiful piece of glass. Not sure what it all really signifies, a good over evil, or there is evil always in the world. Of course, with the bombing of the cathedral, many people may have seen that then as a symbol. Well, from the new glass in the new controversial cathedral as it was in 1956, we come up into the remains, the bombed cathedral. And we have a quotation on the wall here from Micah. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Micah 4:3. And the plaque reminds me that Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, attended this in 1990. Well, this is the remains of Bishop Wolcott, first bishop of the revived See of Coventry, 1918. Very interesting. The plaque he's given himself, obviously he's holding the cathedral in his hands there, the robes of a bishop and so forth. But look at this little symbol here that we picked up. Do you recognise it? Interesting. Very interesting. Well, again, an artist's impression of the figure of Christ. Of course, it's a blasphemy because the Bible informs us that there must be no idolatry. There are no images of Christ. This is probably how the secular artist, who may not be secular, depicted Christ standing here, and it says here, represents Christ blessing the multitude. Well, as you can see here, we're into the sanctuary of the cathedral. And very interestingly, as I follow across there, I can see there was a chair here for the provost of the cathedral. Mr. Dick Howard must have been a very important man. Could be the stone of Scone underneath, I'm not sure, but it obviously symbolises some form of temporal power, the stone of Scone. And the altar, of course. Father forgive, Father forgive, Father forgive. It's obviously been turned into some litany of reconciliation. See, I'll just move that. Looks like some German visitors put reconciliation. All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And I would say that this was probably a full ecumenical service by this altar. Original timbers apparently make up the rather simple and I think quite striking cross. The good thing is they haven't got an image of Christ on it. It has become a simple image, and you can see the charred remains there. The fire that brought the mighty roof of this cathedral crashing down. It's been fashioned and formed to the shape of a cross. Father forgive. Father forgive all sinners, not just those who dropped the bombs. Well, you can see here, it looks like 6, 7, 14 strong stone supports which would have held the roof of this cathedral. They are still standing, of course. They withstood the bombing by the Luftwaffe, but of course the whole ceiling would have collapsed and come crashing down, and which has been turned into the shape of a cross. Interesting depiction here when the cathedral was once Catholic. You can see there some image of Mary, would that be there? Or the Apostle John, I'm not sure, but certainly Catholic. Seems to have survived as well. I find this very disturbing that in the sort of site of this ancient church you have a depiction of Christ, and what a hideous description it is by the artist Jacob Epstein. Ecce homo, the title, behold the man, and of course that is biblical, behold the man. And you can see the almost Mongol features of the Lord and Saviour Jesus there. But I'm not surprised because, again, this wasn't a Christian sculptor. I think one more form of blasphemy which has been brought here as part of the ecumenical movement. Well, wandering around the remains of the cathedral, we come to this fairly modern sculpture by Josephine de Valscanellis, if I pronounce the name correctly, but I certainly recognise the name next to Richard Branson as a token of reconciliation. It seems an identical sculpture was placed in the Peace Garden in Hiroshima, which actually was yesterday, August the 6th, if you remember the day that the bomb was dropped in Hiroshima. Very interesting that Richard Branson's got involved in this, because I've never heard him express any Christian beliefs at all. And I know he certainly believed in good works. And like so many of these philanthropists, not only him, but the Fords, the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts and so forth, believed very much in the good works, getting them eternal salvation in the portals of heaven. And of course it doesn't, it's a waste of time. So unless you're born again, the good works will not save you, Richard. But an interesting sculpture all the same, and interesting sentiments to be placed in peace gardens. After all, everybody wants peace, don't they? Well, as we end our tour of the devastated cathedral, we can see that plaque here, remembered with gratitude to Sir Basil Spence, architect of this cathedral. Very controversial man. I remember at the time people thought he was perhaps more of a secular architect rather than a Christian one. But to American viewers, the OM means Order of Merit, and the KBE means Knight of the British Empire. Order of Merit, a very distinguished order. I think there's probably only 25 that are ordered, given out each year by Her Majesty the Queen. Then of course you see there the stone commemorating when the Queen was here. I think I've saved looking around at this cathedral. It's a crassel. reconciliation, ecumenism, the way of the world, hideous statue by Jacob Epstein. And I'm always remembered and always think about what Paul said when he went to Mars Hill in Acts 17. And do you remember what he said? Ye men of Athens, I perceive that in all things ye are too superstitious. For as I passed by and beheld your devotions, I saw an inscription to the unknown God. And he further goes on to say, God dwelleth not in temples made with men's hands. And how true that is. You will not find God in any temples, whether they're ruins like this or the new one, which we're going to look into in a minute. Spot on from Paul, disappointment for this cathedral, which could have given so much more to the glory of God, but instead I see it as a combination of the world, not separation of the state, and in some cases, crass commercialization. And on our way out, we're again caught by this vile, wicked, and I think obscene depiction of the Angel Michael over the hideous depiction of the fallen Satan. I think this is absolutely revolting. I think the whole anatomical structure of his body makes you weep almost at the way Christianity has been debased to this level. Shame on Basil Spence for commissioning that. And shame, I suppose, on the people of Coventry accepting it. God's judgment will come one day. Look at the size of this door. It must be all of 14, 15 foot high. I would say that's good old British oak. And it feels like it too. It nearly broke my hand. Massive. Look at the thickness there. That's round about, I don't know, 8, 9, maybe 10 inches. Massive door here. And look at the old original face of the lock. Double-headed key would have gone in there. Probably weighed about 8, maybe 10 pounds. The official key would have been kept by the gatekeeper. I'm told they even slept with it under their bed, so it couldn't be lost. There was only one. But it survived 500 years, and I think it represents to me what the great doors will be like in the New Jerusalem when it comes down. 15 foot of history here that stands to this very day. And in fact, if you look above there, you can see some wonderful work that's been done on the roof here by the stonemasons of the day. There's a symbol of a face there. Can you see that? Another hideous sign in front of us. I'm very impressed by the symbol up here. Who knows? Maybe an important lady of the day, or a gentleman, now of course long forgotten. And this would have been the doorkeeper's little door there where he would have stayed, guarding the treasures of the cathedral and carrying on to that key.